I love reading your comments, and somebody left a comment that said, when do I stop feeding a package that I received 3 weeks ago? Right now they're taking about 1.5 to 2 quarts a week. I am adding a second deep this week, and they have 6 pulled frames and with resources complete. So I thought I'd take a moment because I always like to kind of test some of my own packages that I sell. So I threw a package here, and it should be in about the same configuration as the comment, the person with the comment left. And so we're going to evaluate how long do we keep feeding this particular hive. Now, if you noticed on the front, I told you guys in the last video that I inspected all these hives. I wrote on the top here that the hive's doing okay, but it needs fed. And I always make notes on the top covers of my lids. So I'm dropping back, making a video showing you how I know that it still needs fed. So let's pop in there and I'll show you. Yeah, I'm wearing my hat and veil today. A lot of you make comments about, oh my gosh, where'd you get that hat and veil at? Well, I made it myself. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can actually watch the video where I made this. It makes it much easier to see through the plastic than it is looking through the veil. And so let's take a look. I want to show you guys how I make decisions that hives need fed. And so we'll just smoke this a little bit. And so what you're going to be looking for is the condition of the hive that they're in, and also kind of like how much resources that they may have. So we're going to start looking at how the bees are doing. So we'll smoke them, and it'll give us an idea of how many resources they might have in the hive themselves. That's really important. So they haven't worked their way over to these outside edges yet, and so we can just slide these frames over. And here's the first frame they've been working on. Look at that. Nothing yet, but they're on it. They're moving that way. The next frame over, yeah, this is one they've drawn out. Let's get a little smoke back on there. I'm kind of going very limited protection, no gloves, short sleeves, and just a little hat and a veil going. Ooh, this is very heavy. So heavy means there's resources. In other words, heavy means that they have some stored nectar. So on this frame, got a little blob of stuff down at the bottom, which is just some stray comb. And the brood pattern looks good. It's kind of some drone brood like you see down here, but over here you can see, look at that bee right there with all the crazy orange pollen on her back legs. Isn't that something? Wow. She's got a ton of pollen on her back legs. But you can see the brood pattern right here. It looks really good. It feels weighty, let's see, but I don't see much resource in it. Now look in the middle. You can see they're preparing for the queen to lay. They've what I call dried out or cleaned out the cells in the middle. So they want her to lay there. So we'll say no resources there. So that's why they probably need fed. Now, can they go and bring in on their own resources? Absolutely. But look, they need to draw more frames out. Here's another one. Yep, looks decent. Queen's getting established on a new package, starting to lay. But again, no resources, a tiny bit of pollen in the corner right up here, or honey capped over in the corner, but that's not enough to really make the merry-go-round. So a little bit up there. So not much in the way of resources. So far, not much resources. Let's keep looking. And so yeah, they need to fill out the rest of these frames. Looks like they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames that they've, there's our queen, look at that, right in the middle there. She's right over here. There's our queen. So a little bit of nectar at the top, but not much at all. A lot of brood, so you can see, oh, look at this one, a lot of brood, but then a lot of pollen over in this corner here. Not a lot, but there's some there. So they're trying to make a go at it, but I think in this case, we're not happy with seeing very little nectar, very little brood. Let's take a look at this one. They're mainly on this side here. Now here's our nectar, but that's not much in the kitchen, is it? That's just a little bit for a hive. So feeding them is going to be a big help to get them to draw out the rest of this wax, rest of these frames. All right, so let's go ahead and position our frames back where they were. Let's go ahead and smoke them again. So for those of you that are kind of just starting out with your new package or something, this is one of the ways that you can evaluate feeding them. So feeding them is going to help them draw out more of the foundation, especially if you add wax to it. That's going to be important too. Not all of these frames have wax on them. For me, I should, but I don't always. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I feed them. First, you have to mix up your feed. So let me show you what I add to my feed. I add a little bit of Honeybee Healthy, and then I add some Amino Bee Booster. I add a teaspoon of each, and then I add a teaspoon of protein powder, which is Ultra B, and then mix it all together, and it looks like this. This is actually 2 quarts. A long time ago, I got a bunch of these jars that are 2 quarts with a small mouth on it. It's hard to find those. Oh, by the way, sometimes people will actually wonder if these jars are going to leak. Now, they're designed, we've done these for years, centuries. So once you turn them over, you'll see that they leak for a minute, but then they stop leaking for the most part because they're vacuum and the liquid just doesn't have a good way to come out those small holes once they get kind of settled down a little bit. And rest assured that if they do have a drop every now and again that comes out on their own like that, the bees are going to eat that up. But you can essentially see there's nothing coming out, and the bees are going to consume whatever does drip once every 30 seconds or once a minute. Pretty much not dripping, okay? So you will see it in the beginning, so that's fine. I put it right in the middle. This is a Burns feeder that I invented. If you're interested in those, a lot of you ask about this feeder. You don't realize we sell these, but we do. And so I put a deep box to surround it. Now what's neat about this is if you want to change, if they eat all of this, you want to change it out, there's a screen that allows the bees to stay down below the screen. So you can change the jar without bees coming up. This part here is made if you want to use a pollen patty. You can push it through here and let the bees eat your pollen patty through this little device here, this little screen. I put my protein here rather than in the patty because I want to control small hive beetle. Small hive beetles sometimes love pollen patties. All right, then we put a top on it. Yeah, that's just a way that we can feed bees and keep everything kind of nice and neat in there. Now, I want to tell you about this. If you put this jar on top without the board to support it or the screen, you just laid it on the top of the frames. This time of the year, what happens, the bees will actually consume the sugar water, but they're going to put comb all in the area up here. And so, don't ask me how I found out, but I had to find a way, how can I feed them from the top without them building all extra comb around the jar? That's what they'll do. So some of you I know say you put the jar on top of the frames, they're going to build crazy comb up there. The board, the screen holds them down, okay? So there you go. That's how you determine if you need to keep feeding your bees. Number one, you need to make sure if they're drawing comb out, if they're drawing out the foundation, comb on undrawn foundation, keep feeding them. And number two, if they don't have a lot of stored resources themselves, it just means that it's been a rough spring, maybe a lot of rain or something. They haven't been able to get a lot of nectar, pollen in there. They're going to grow faster. They're going to do better if you can assist them in that process of getting established. So that's going to help a lot. So those two things are most important. By the way, guys, I got a live stream coming up on how to protect your queen, how to make sure your queen is good to go. and how not to kill her. That's so easy to kill a queen. Got a whole live stream coming up tonight. Be sure and check it out right over here. Hope you'll join me 7 p.m. Central Time. See you then.